this tutorial I'm going to show you how to crochet the corner to corner moss stitch. So you might be used to seeing moss stitch like this, but then you work it from corner to corner and just gives another dimension to the moss stitch, sometimes known as the linen stitch. One row repeats, so it's the same on the front as it is on the back, and it's just a really beautiful mindful stitch. As you go through the video, I'll show you how to make it into a rectangle, and at the end I'll show you how to do the decreases on both sides. So if you only wanted to make a square, you could decrease to make the square at whatever point you want to. So don't forget to stick around to the end of the video to see how to do the decreases. So let's have a look at the tutorial. So for this tutorial I'm using, it's quite a thick DK, it's not quite an Aran, but it is quite a chunky DK. This is the Hobbycraft Twist and Shout in the colourway pink grey. I'm going to use a 4.5mm crochet hook because this is slightly chunkier. You can use whichever yarn you like with a corresponding crochet hook. I have a needle to sew in my end, scissors to cut off my end, and a stitch marker because you will need one if you want to mark your rows for the decrease. So let's have a look at the tutorial. So because we are working corner to corner, there is no foundation row. We start in one corner and the piece grows from that corner. So we're going to start off with a slip knot. You can do this in whichever way you prefer. And we're going to chain 3, so we yarn over and pull through the loop on our hook. That's 1, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 3. We're then going to work in that very first chain that we made, or you could say the third chain from the hook, so 1, 2, 3. And we're going in there with a double crochet. That's UK terms. In US terms, you're going in with a single crochet. So I'm going to insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through both of those loops. I'm going to chain 1 and going back into the same chain with a double crochet. So insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. And that's the start of our corner. I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2. A moss stitch is worked into the chain spaces, so we're going to skip that double crochet which is at the base of the chain 2 and working into the chain space, the chain 1 space, going to go in with a double crochet, going to chain 1, skip the double crochet here, and then working into that 2 chain space from our turning chain, going in with a double crochet, chain 1 and another double crochet into the same chain space. And by putting those 2 double crochets with the chain 1 in between, that's going to increase our row so it can grow outwards. So I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2, turn my work, going to skip that double crochet, find your chain space, work 1 double crochet in the chain space, chain 1, skip a double crochet, find the next chain space, so there's an extra one this time, double crochet, chain 1, and then find your 2 chain space at the end, and in the 2 chain space we're going to do a double crochet, chain 1 and another double crochet into the same chain space. Chain 2, turn your work, skip that first double crochet and into the next one, into the next chain space, 1 double crochet, chain 1, skip a double crochet into the next chain space, 1 double crochet, So there's an extra chain space created on each row. So skip the double, working into the chain space, double crochet, chain 1, and then into the 2 chain space we go in with a double crochet, chain 1 and a double crochet. You can see how that corner is really starting to take shape there. Chain 2, turn your work, skip the double crochet, working into the chain space, 1 double crochet, chain 1, skip a double crochet into the chain space, double crochet, chain 1, skip a double crochet into the chain space, double crochet, chain 1, and don't forget those chain 1s, otherwise you won't have chain spaces to work into. Next chain space, double crochet, chain 1, and then in the 2 chain space we're going double crochet, chain 1 and double crochet again. So we're just going to keep doing that all the way until we have our piece of work as wide as we would like it to be. Now you can make this into a rectangle or you can make it into a square. So get your piece as wide as you'd like it to be, and I'll show you what you need to do for the rectangle and the square on the decrease. So remember, it's chain 2, turn your work, skip that first double crochet, working into the chain space, the double crochet, chain 1, all the way down your row until you get to the 2 chain space at the end, where you're going to do 2 double crochets with the chain 1 in between. So pause the video now whilst you work up your piece to the width you'd like it to be, and I shall see you in a moment. So I've just worked up a few more rows for you to see how it looks, and we've got a lovely triangle shape going on there. You might find that you need to block this because this corner doesn't want to sort of square up, so you might need to just block your work just to make sure it's all nice and square. So we want to make this into a rectangle. You might want to make it into a square, in which case I will show you how to do that in a minute. So to make it into a rectangle, we need to have one side that increases whilst the other side decreases. So to do a decrease, then we're going to start as we would ordinarily with our 2 chains, turn our work, and then we're going to work in exactly the same way as we have been doing by working into our chain spaces with a double crochet, chain 1, skip the double crochet from the previous row, chain 1, all the way down the row. So I'm just going to speed this bit up for you. So as we get to our end of our row, we have our 2 chain space, a double crochet, a 1 chain space and a double crochet. So I want to get to that 1 chain space and the 2 chain space. So this is the decrease now. So we skip the double crochet, we go into the 1 chain space with the double crochet. We're not going to do our chain 1. We're going to go straight to the 2 chain space and we're going to put 1 double crochet in there. We're not doing the second one and the chain 1. Then we start the next row with 2 chains, and this is where I'm going to use my stitch marker. I'm just going to pop that on so I know that that is the side that I'm decreasing, so I don't forget. So chain 2, I'm going to turn my work. Now we're going to skip the double crochet, skip a double crochet, and there's our 1 chain space. So because we didn't put the 1 chain spaces in between, we've just got 2 double crochets, so we're going to skip over those, find the first 1 chain space and do our double crochet, chain 1, skip the double crochet, chain 1 in the chain space, and we do that all the way down the row. Again, I shall speed this up for you. So because this is my increase row, I'm going to chain 2, turn my work, and I can go straight into the 1 chain space, find the next 1 chain space, skip the double crochet, 1 chain space. So I'm going to speed this up for you until we get to just before the end of the row, so I can show you how to do the decrease once more. So I've come to the end of my row, I've got my double crochet, my last 1 chain space, so I double crochet in there, I don't do the chain 1, and then I double crochet into the very last stitch, and we don't do the extra chain 1 double crochet. So I'm going to work up a few more rows for you to see how the rectangle looks, then I'll show you how to decrease on both sides if you're wanting to make a square. So I've worked up a few more rows for you to see how the rectangle looks. So obviously we're now getting this straighter side coming up here rather than growing outwards. Definitely will need blocking, although I'm also finding that I'm getting tighter with my stitches here than I was here. I think that's because I got into the zone and here I was demonstrating. So that's interesting to note when I do that. So what we're going to do now, we've already shown you how to decrease on this side. We now want to decrease on this side so we can start making the top and filling in the rest of this triangle. So if you were making a square, you would go as wide as you would like your piece to be, and then you would start doing this process. So you wouldn't keep carrying on with a decrease and an increase row, you would just decrease on both sides, which is what we're going to do now. So the decrease is exactly the same. So I have a double, a space, a double, and a space, the 2 chain space. So we do it in exactly the same way. So we do 1 double crochet into the last 1 chain space, we don't chain, and we do 1 double crochet into the 2 chain space, and again we don't chain. Then we do chain 2 and we turn our work, we skip the 2 double crochets that we've made, and then we're going to work into the first 1 chain space, which is here, with a double crochet, chain 1, skip a double crochet, chain 1, and we work that way all the way back down our row. So again, I'm going to speed this up for you so you don't need to watch me battling with the silver thread. So come to the end of my row here, so skip the double crochet, 1 double crochet in the chain space, no chain 1, and then into the 2 chain space with 1 double crochet, chain 2, turn our work, skip the 2 double crochets and start working your moss stitch row. And I'll just show you one more time. So I'll speed this row up again. So I have a double, a chain 1, a double, a chain 2. So we do 1 double in the chain 1, so I've got my stitch marker. We don't chain, and we do a double in the 2 chain. Now this one feels weird because you're now starting to do the flat along the top, so you feel like you want to go over here, but you are in the right place with just flattening off at the top here. If you find it easier, now you don't need to mark your decrease row. Move your stitch marker, do your chain 2, and then put your stitch marker around the 2 chains, so not into a stitch but around the 2 chains, and you can do another one at the other end just to remind you where your stitch is going to be. You're going to skip the 2 double crochets, find the 1 chain space and start doing your row all over again. So I'm going to finish off my rectangle now, and I shall see you in a moment. So I've just worked up a few more rows to show you how it looks, but I just wanted to show you how I'm going to finish off. So there's a double crochet, and there's a double crochet, so we skip the first 2 on our decrease row, and there's the chain 2. I'm just going to put 1 double crochet into the 2 chain space just to finish off, yarn over, pull through, and then you can fasten off. You just move my stitch marker, and there you have your finished piece of work. Now I really do think it needs blocking. Like I said, I got tighter throughout my piece of work because obviously I was demonstrating how to do it down here, so I was slower and tension was slightly different. But it occurred to me that you probably do the same thing. When you're following along a video, you might end up with slightly looser stitches at the beginning, and then as you get used to the stitch you get a bit tighter because your tension tightens up. So just something to bear in mind really when you're making projects. Don't worry too much if it is a little bit looser, because I think this will block out quite nicely and not be an issue at all. If you do think it's an issue, then you can always start again and just use this as your sample piece. So it's a really lovely mindful stitch. Just come in a little bit closer. I really love moss stitch anyway, or sometimes known as linen stitch. I just think it's a really pretty stitch, especially when you've got a variegated yarn. I particularly like this one with the silver through, although it's quite easy to catch the silver on your hook. It's just a really pretty mindful stitch. So if you've enjoyed today's tutorial, please give it a thumbs up. It does help YouTube to show it to other crocheters and for the algorithm to show it to them. If you've enjoyed seeing my stitch marker today, this is my kawaii resin cactus. Gosh, my brain's gone. My cactus stitch marker, that's available in my Etsy shop and also my website shop. I'll put a link to both in the descriptions below. I shall pop 2 more videos on the side of the screen over here to help you on your crochet journey, and I shall see you over there. Thank you so much for joining me on this one, and happy hooking!